Hi Flosstube, and welcome to my channel, my newest video. Sorry I had to move the light out of the way so you could sort of see the cross stitch behind me. There's a little bit of a glare, but let me move this back down actually. Sorry about the messy bookshelves and everything. This is just kind of where I stitch. You can see my needle minder board and stuff back here. It's back there. And my lamp we got at Menards. But anyway, this is Tina Frazier coming to you from Columbus, Ohio. It is about 9:30 p.m. on Tuesday, June 12th, 2018. Today was my Friday at work, which I'm really happy about. Yay! I have the next 3 days off. But I am not going to be home, which is one of the reasons why, sorry about that, I was like shaking the camera. My laptop is on a little TV tray that's a little wobbly, and I had my hands resting on it and getting excited and shaking all around. So, sorry about that. One real quick thing. I'm sorry in advance about coughing for you guys. Over the weekend while we were at my in-laws on Saturday, we plugged in an air conditioning unit in the dining room because it was really hot in the house. My husband had made some homemade sausage, using a recipe by Jacques Pepin. It's like his sausage recipe that calls for ground pork, mushrooms, and pistachios, and curing salt, and then you cure it for 48 to 72 hours and then bake it or however you cook it. And we made that for the family on Saturday night, and it was really hot in my in-laws' house. So we'd put in this air conditioning unit that was sitting on the floor in the dining room into the window to make the room cooler while we were eating. And apparently the small air conditioning unit hadn't been used in a couple of years. So when we plugged it in and got the power cord plugged in and turned it on, it happened to be standing right in front of it when it turned on, and it blew all kinds of crap right into my face. So I think I ended up with a little bit of kind of an allergic sinus reaction to it. And not only that, but the neighbors next door, they've been renovating the apartment above their garage, and they were burning some of the stuff, the junk that they'd pulled out of the apartment, like some of the wood and stuff like that, the leftover woods. They were burning all that stuff outside Saturday night, and I think the combination of the air conditioning unit blowing crap in my face and the whatever they were burning on their bonfire Saturday night and Sunday kind of got into, my sinuses and irritated them. So like Saturday night I ended up with a sore throat. Sunday I ended up with a worse sore throat. Sunday night I ended up congested, and well, I'm still congested and I'm coughing, but I have no more sore throat. The sore throat went away yesterday morning, thank God. But anyway, I'm off Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday because here in Columbus, every year in June, there is a fairly large, quite large actually, board game convention known as Origins Game Fair. I will put the link below. But every year, vendors come from all over the country, all over the world, actually, and meet here in Columbus for a big 4-day board gaming convention. It technically starts tomorrow afternoon. There's actually people down at the convention center now doing things and setting up. But they have a big vendor dealer's room that opens Thursday morning, and the dealer's room is open Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, so you can buy all kinds of games. There's indie games, all kinds of games that you could ever hope to play. And these aren't just like Monopoly games. They're like Settlers of Catan and Ticket to Ride and, some of the games that you've been seeing popping up at Target and places like that. There's all kinds of Euro games, what are called Euro games. And, they're made by companies overseas. There's all kinds of vendors. There's all kinds of artists. There's all kinds of game designers. There's all kinds of new games to play. There's games you'll never ever see anywhere else. So my husband and I, we've been going to Origins every year since it's been in Columbus, and it's probably been in Columbus going on 15, almost 20 years now. It's been a long time. But it's kind of our big hurrah for the year. It's where we spend most of our money. We save up all our change that we've collected throughout the year and take that as mad spending money. It's a pretty good time. We usually end up with anywhere from $700 to $1,000 to spend every year. So that's pretty fun. The local board game club that I used to belong to, Columbus Area Board Game Society, they lend their library of over 2,000 games to the Origins boardroom, which is board game room. And you have to buy an additional ribbon to go on your badge in order to get into the boardroom to play games. But the boardroom is open pretty much from like 8 a.m. to like midnight, thereabouts, the whole entire thing of the con, except tomorrow they open at noon because actually the games library won't show up until sometime tomorrow and be set up by noon. But yeah, so it's just a bunch of board games all weekend long, and we get to try new games, we get to buy new games, we get to meet game designers. I'm really excited because Grant Wilson of Ghost Hunters fame is a game designer now, since he's no longer with the show, and his game company, Rather Dashing Games, that he runs with his partner Mike Ritchie and a couple other people that they have on their team now. They have a booth there, and they'll have a new game, hopefully, that we can all try. And I get to see Grant and say hi to Grant, and I haven't seen Grant. It's probably been 6 months or more, but he's a nice guy. So I'm looking forward to that, and they're just seeing all kinds of friends that, we only get to see once or twice a year that come into town for the convention. So we're really excited, and we're going to be really, really busy. But that's one of the reasons why I'm kind of doing this Flosstube kind of quickly here for you tonight. Because I don't think I'm going to have much time, and I'll probably be way too tired to do one this weekend for you. And plus, I have a couple of little updates. My drink of choice tonight, it's a real sugar soda by Kroger called Cola Time. This is actually just like a Coke. It's like a Coke knockoff. I'm a Coke drinker. I prefer Coke over Pepsi. So... yeah, and I'm sorry for the sniffling. I can't help it. It's better that I sniffle than, drip. So, sorry about that. So anyway, a couple little housekeeping tips. I want to thank you for the new subscribers. I want to thank those people that have commented, thank those people that have liked my recent content. I don't know how many of you actually watched the 2-hour-long Stitch With Me episode I did this weekend, but that stemmed from the cross-stitch sleepover by the Kitten Stitcher. She had been wondering, why as adults don't we do sleepovers? And that's a very good question. I mean, sleepovers were always fun when I was growing up. We played light as a feather, stiff as a board. We went into the bathroom, turned all the lights off, and played Bloody Mary. And, we danced. And, we used to watch Grease and sing along. And we used to do each other's hair. And then we used to, when we got into junior high, we used to do dances. We used to have dances, and pillow fights and all kinds of things. So Kitten Stitcher decided that it would be kind of fun to do kind of a virtual sleepover where everybody just gets together and spends the whole night stitching. You can snack, you can talk, you can post on Instagram, you can post on Facebook, and just kind of keep everybody in tune with your projects throughout the night. And it was a lot of fun. I had a blast. I actually stayed up until about 3 o'clock in the morning on Friday night, stitching along at my in-laws' house once we finally got there and I got settled in. So it was a lot of fun. I'm sorry if my voice goes. It comes along with being, congested. I am taking cough medicine. Hopefully most of my congestion will go away by tomorrow night or Thursday. I really hate to go through the convention congested, but, it is what it is. And, well, anyway. So... for the housekeeping, I said, I just wanted to say thank you for subscribing. Thank you for making comments. Thank you for liking my posts. I did want to give a very warm thank you to Coffee Stitcher. Coffee Stitcher, on one of his more recent videos, he had talked about luminaries and how he used to do luminaries when he was growing up, and they were kind of a pain in the butt. And I agree with him, but I have, at one point in time when we first bought our house, I was collecting those half-gallon milk jugs that you get those kind of milky ones. And I was cutting off just below the handle, so they were like just the little containers. And I was collecting those throughout the year, because I used to get the Turkey Hill iced tea. The Turkey Hill iced tea, like, that was peach and raspberry and lemonade flavors. And I used to drink those like all the time, like 2 or 3 a week. And I was keeping those as well as the milk jugs that I was using. Because my husband and I, we don't use a lot of milk, so we only buy half gallons. We don't buy gallon containers. And those half gallons usually last us a good 3 weeks, however long, the expiration is. So for a while there, I was getting a lot of these milk jugs. So I was cutting the handles off and putting play sand in the bottom of them. And for a while there, I was buying those bags of 100 tea lights, the ones that the ones you actually have to light. And I would use them as luminaries out in front of our house. And they were absolutely beautiful. And I was getting to the point where I could line both sides of the steps of my porch, the little itty-bitty walkway section, and both sides of my driveway. Well, if you leave those out there long enough, the elements break the plastic down so they crumble and they get really brittle easily. So, after about one season, you have to keep replacing it. Well, it wasn't a problem, but, trying to find some place to store all that, too, is kind of a pain in the butt. And my husband wasn't really appreciating the fact that, we were storing all these used plastic milk jugs and iced tea jugs. So I kind of got out of the habit of putting them out. But at one point, I was replacing the tea lights that you have to light with those little mini flickering tea lights that you can turn on and off, that use the button batteries. I was using those for a while, and they turned out pretty well. But then I just really got out of the habit of putting out luminaries. But anyway, Coffee Stitcher was telling the story about how, when he was growing up, he'd have to put out these luminaries. And I had just put a comment on his blog about my ex's parents' neighborhood. They lived basically on a dead end that kind of wrapped around and then dead-ended in the cul-de-sac, and they kind of lived basically almost right on the cul-de-sac. But the neighborhood, there was this house in the neighborhood that had collected enough of these luminary jugs or luminary containers. I don't remember if they used all bags or all jugs, or if it was a combination of both. But every year around Thanksgiving weekend, they'd start setting out the luminaries. And the luminaries, I kid you not, the luminaries lined both sides of the sidewalk, all the way down the street, around the cul-de-sac, and back up the other side. It lined both sides of the sidewalk, both sides of every single house's driveways, and both sides of every single house's little walkway up to the front door. Now, they wouldn't put them on the porches unless the houses actually did that. But there was one house in particular that was doing this and had collected enough stuff over the years that they could do the entire street that way. And back when we were still together, back in the early 90s, he would have the kids in the neighborhood come and light all the candles every night. He used little tea lights, and it was beautifully stunning, especially in new fallen snow. So I'd put that story on his video where he talks about the luminaries, and he shouted me out on his most recent video. So that was very nice to get shouted out about his liking my luminary story. So thank you, Coffee Stitcher, for shouting me out. I really appreciate it. Unfortunately, I don't have any pictures, and I ain't really going back to the ex's parents' neighborhood to get any pictures. I'm not even sure they're doing it anymore. But yeah, I'm not going back for obvious reasons. And yeah, so it was just absolutely beautiful. I love luminaries. Luminaries are absolutely beautiful. And if I could find a way to make the plastic jugs not so brittle once they've been out in the elements for a period of time, I would really, really love to find a more permanent solution. My husband was saying that we could get like little, they have that ground cloth that you can put down to prevent weeds, and those little stakes. We could get those and put those through the bottom, and just make them a little more permanent and actually use like strung Christmas lights or something for them. But I don't know that they would necessarily be as pretty as using like just tea lights. and filling the bases with sand, because then you can, you know, readjust them or whatever, and if one breaks you can easily swap it out. But anyway, so that was my Luminary story, and thanks to Coffee Stitcher I had a shout out, and I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. So one of the other Flosstubers that I've been watching that's actually fairly new to Flosstube, and a lot of people have been giving him some kudos for posting and sharing with us his adventures in stitching, and his not necessarily issues, but how he deals with his Parkinson's disease. And his name, his Flosstube name is Marilyn's Boy, MARILYN''S Boy, BOY, Marilyn's Boy. Now he's really funny. He started his first 2 videos wearing a grime guard around his head, and it's really kind of funny. He kind of makes me laugh, and he has a pretty good sense of humor. It's pretty funny. So if you ever get a chance, hop over to Marilyn's Boy Flosstube channel. I'll put a link down below, and give him a watch. He's pretty funny, and I just think it's really refreshing to have somebody who uses some of the same stitchy tools that I use, like say my grime guard. You know, I use a grime guard to mainly keep my project clean as I'm stitching with it. But I never thought that using a grime guard would allow somebody like Marilyn's Boy to actually stitch, you know, because the grime guard helps him hold his pieces so he can stitch. I just don't think of the other uses that some of the tools that I use to stitch might help somebody else actually be able to stitch. So it's just kind of refreshing to kind of get that perspective as well, and to actually just think about you know, how I might be able to help reach out to somebody that I meet that you know, maybe can't do some of the things I can do because of, you know, physical limitations or whatever. Maybe I can actually show them how, and maybe, you know, maybe we can make that bond. It's just a way that he has let me see how I can open the world of stitching to other people, and I really thank him for that. And he's just so positive, and he's so funny. He actually does have a really good sense of humor. So if you ever get a chance, I hope you will go and watch his videos, because they're actually really, really funny. He only has 2 or 3 out. He doesn't have very many out, but he's really good. Pardon me. Oh, and in case anybody's asking, I'm drinking this out of a little Bailey's glass. The reason why I'm drinking out of a glass is because when I first opened this can of soda, I took a drink, and I think my taste buds are off because of the allergic reaction that I'm having, or, you know, whatever this is. If it's sinus infection, I don't know. But I think my taste buds are a little off, because that tasted just like it was non-syrup carbonated water, and it was disgusting. So I poured it in a glass to see if it was lighter than normal, and it's not lighter than normal, and it actually tastes better in the glass than it does out of the can tonight. So drinking out of glass. Anyway, let's see. So there's a new Flosstube tag going around. I'm gonna have to do a little research and pull the questions for you. I was going to try and do that tonight, but I don't think so. I'm already at 18 minutes, and I haven't really got into some of the stuff I want to talk to you about. So I'm going to have to look that up and talk to you later. I need to dig out a pen. My pen of choice. I'm into fountain pens, you guys. This is a preppy pen. I don't know if you can see this. This is a preppy pen. It's a fountain pen. It's like a little calligraphy fountain pen. And it's a little cartridge. There's a little ink cartridge in here. I have a whole mess of these. And you're going to laugh. They're all preppy pens. I'll just get them out. Yeah, they're all preppy pens. They all have different colors. They all have different color inks. But you're going to laugh at me because all these preppy pens that I have are Hello Kitty preppy pens. So, except for like 2 or 3. So, yeah, you can see. Oops. Alright. So, I think I got them all. I have a yellow, I have a purple, I have a black. This is another black preppy pen, but this is not Hello Kitty. That's loose. I have another yellow casing. That was my first one that has brown ink in it. Here's a preppy pen that is black that I don't have anything in right now. I don't have an ink in it. This is blue, not a Hello Kitty. This is a pink Hello Kitty. You can see the Hello Kitty on it. This is a red Hello Kitty. You can see the Hello Kitty. This is green Hello Kitty. Hello Kitty. And this is a blue Hello Kitty that actually has kind of a turquoise color in it. Yeah, I'm into preppy pens. These are the fountain preppy pens. The fountain preppy pens are actually pretty inexpensive compared to some fountain pens. I think they're like $2 or $3 a piece or something like that. But this has been my, ever since last year, these fountain pens have been my pen of choice. I really like writing with fountain pens. So I've kind of switched over from ballpoints to using fountain pens as much as possible because I really like them. But anyway, so I'm gonna have to make a note on my notes. I have my notebook here that I'm looking at with all my notes. These are my Flosstube notes that I've talked about them. Let's see. I kind of talked a little bit about some of this stuff. I haven't made more recent notes than that. Alright, so back to the meat of my thing. My local cross-stitch store, Cross My Heart, they went to, put this back in here. They went to the Nashville Needlework show a month or two back, a couple months ago. And Emily, one of the shop personnel, was doing a class on Flosstube there. I know that some there's been some good reviews and some okay reviews and some reviews about the class, the Flosstube class. But she had sat me down at one of the stitch nights to talk to me about why people would watch Flosstube and what the draw of watching Flosstube would be for, maybe a store getting involved in Flosstube and whatnot. So a couple of things that came up, and some of the things I told her was a lot of people, they use it to communicate with each other. They use it to perform, to get to know people that have the same interests they do. They get to know other people. It gives them a way to feel connected. If, say you're somebody that, doesn't necessarily get out of the house all that much, or, maybe you can't get out and get around. It gives you a way to feel connected. You can share with people. You can get ideas. You can get inspiration. You can find out new patterns. You can get excited about new things. You can hear about new things. And one of the really big things for me that kind of hit the nail on the head recently about why I got into Flosstube and why I've kind of been like jumping in both feet is because of the good tips and good techniques and, just the aha moments that you can have being on Flosstube. Really good thing here. I was binge watching some of the Coffee Stitcher's earlier videos, like video number 23. He had been working this piece that had a stitched frame. It was something that had like little bits and pieces in a big frame. There was like a stitched frame around the whole entire piece, and then each little section had its own little teeny box frame that you stitched in. And he was saying that he came across a tip from another Flosstuber that when you're actually stitching a frame like that, where it's a couple of stitches and you go all the way across a piece, one easy way that you can help yourself count is every 10th stitch that you make in that border, especially if you're not doing, if you're not crossing each stitch as you go, if you're just doing the one leg all the way across and then you're going to come back, to help you count, every 10th stitch, instead of just doing the half of the direction that you're going, do the full cross. So you know that the full cross stitch is every 10 stitches, and it'll help you keep your count so you don't have to keep recounting everything. And that's a really good tip. I've been stitching for, since 1989, and I don't think that ever crossed my mind. So Flosstube can actually give you some really good hints on things that you can do to speed your stitching up and to make your stitching more accurate. So that would be one of the main reasons why I really like Flosstube. I like keeping entertained, and I also like to have something to listen to or watch when I stitch that isn't necessarily Hallmark movie channels. I like Hallmark movies, and I like Christmas movies, and I like some of those movies that I've seen thousands and thousands of times, like The Breakfast Club and Pretty in Pink and Top Gun and Cocktail and, all those other, 80s movies that you've seen forever and ever and ever. But there's just something I'd like, just to listen to somebody talking and just to stitch along with somebody too. That's another thing that I really enjoy, because we don't get out of the house a lot. And I've been too busy. I've cut back on a lot of the extra stuff that I do at night. I used to play taiko drums, I used to do roller derby, I used to do this, I used to do that, I used to do this other thing, and I've cut back on a lot of that, mainly because I wanted to take some time to do stuff that I've, been neglecting for a few years, and stitching is one of them. That's why I've been able to go to my Wednesday night stitch groups. Now, granted, I'm still only going to those about once a month, even though they happen weekly, and I'd really like to change that, but, it's one of those things. I'm working on it, and it's coming along. But Flosstube has enabled me to also sit there in my downtime, when I do have downtime, and find somebody that I can stitch with and just, enjoy company, so to speak. So anyway, enough about that. I have notes down here about starting a WIP rotation, but I don't think I really get into that. Oh, excuse me. So, a couple of new things that I've got. So, what did I do with them? Where did I put them? Oh, they're under my notes. Whoops. Alright. So, the granddaughter that's been living with my in-laws, she is expecting a baby sometime in September, I want to say. Maybe it's August. Heck, maybe it's actually July. I don't know. I don't know exactly when she's expecting. But she knows that I crochet, or she knows that I know somebody in the family that crochets and can follow patterns. And she's kind of a geeky gamer. She's in her early 20s, and she found this pattern online for a crochet outfit for a newborn that she really wanted. And she asked me if I would go ahead and crochet it for her, and I said sure. So she went ahead and bought the pattern on Etsy and sent it to me. It's a Link outfit from The Legend of Zelda. It's the hat, diaper cover, boots, and a sword that you crochet. She got it from a company called JKS Crochet on Etsy. And this is the pattern. So it's the Link outfit pattern by JKS Crochet. You can find them on Etsy. She bought the pattern and sent it to me so I can do it for her. She doesn't crochet, so anyway, this is a project I'm working on. I got started on the hat because I figured this would be an easy project that I could take to my convention with me. This is how I got started. This is how much I've started on the hat. This is the part that goes on the baby's head, and I'm on the decrease section. The hat's going to be, I don't know, probably about yay long. But, so I'm probably in the section here where the X's are. And this is double crochet. It's pretty cute so far. I really like it. For this, I'm using, I love this cotton, or I love this yarn from Hobby Lobby. This green color is Jelly Bean. And I love this yarn from Hobby Lobby. I got the brown, the silver, the blue, and the yellow. Also, I love this yarn from Hobby Lobby to complete the pattern for this. So I'm hoping that I can take this to the game convention with me, and in downtime I can sit there and crochet. So that is one pattern that I'm working on. I do crochet. My crochet bug hasn't been there recently. I've been like really digging the cross stitch because I haven't done cross stitch in a while, up until a couple months ago. And so yeah, my crochet's been on the back burner. I'm also a co-chair for the prayer shawl ministry at my church, and we haven't been meeting just because, you know, time commitments, and with my mother-in-law passing and my father-in-law being ill, we just haven't had a lot of home time to be home, and I haven't had a lot of time to work with a chair to schedule meetings. But I also haven't really been crocheting a lot, which is kind of bad because they could really use some prayer shawls. And the pastor of our church, who is the pastor that actually married my husband and I back in 1996, he's been reappointed to another church. So this coming Sunday is his last Sunday at our church, and I'm really kind of sad. I had considered leaving the church because the church that we actually got married in, he was the pastor there, and then he got transferred to a church on the east side. The lady pastor that stepped in, that was appointed in his position, Pastor Patty, she was really nice and everything, but her sermons really didn't touch me like Pastor Glenn's. And plus, you know, Dylan and I, we built a rapport with Pastor Glenn, and so at some point in time, Pastor Glenn, we were driving by this church not far from our house, and we noticed that the marquee said, "Well, so welcome Pastor Glenn, blah, 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 you know, church services on Sunday." So I did a little digging and found out that Pastor Glenn was moving to this church near my house. And I was like, wow. So I went to his first Sunday service there, and he welcomed me in. I was sitting in, you know, the first couple of rows, so he saw me in the thing, and he smiled during his sermon, and he'd point to me, and he'd tell a couple stories about our old church together, and, you know, during the sermon, he'd look at me and smile, and I'd nod, and, you know, we gave each other a big hug after the service was over, and, you know, so a couple months went by, and I was making a big life change at work by taking on another job, and I decided that the church I was at with Pastor Patty just wasn't quite working out right, and so I was making this other change at work too by taking on by accepting another job, and I decided that I would make the jump and move to Pastor Glenn's new church. They have a bigger congregation. They have a handbell choir, which I really love. I love the bell choir director. They have a couple other craft groups. They have just some more opportunities for me to be involved and to get to know people in the church. But so I made the move, and I joined the church, and I've been there ever since. This was in 2014 that I changed churches, and it was announced, I don't know, probably March, late February, early March, when stuff with my mother-in-law was going on and the stuff at work was going on, about them laying people off. Pastor Glenn announced that he's being reappointed to another church. And I'm like, oh, great. So my husband and I were talking, and we're like, yeah, we don't think it's going to be Pastor Patty, because, well, you know, Pastor Patty, she's done a lot for the church that we were in, and, you know, we don't know that she'd necessarily be the best fit for this church. Well, come to find out, it's Pastor Patty coming to my church again. I love Pastor Patty. She's really nice. Her sermons don't quite speak to me the way that Pastor Glenn's sermons speak to me. So I was like, well, okay. So I did a little digging. Pastor Glenn's new church, they're looking for handbell choir people. I'm like, I can play handbells. And then I was like, no. I really like the church I'm at, though. I like the people. I like the people I'm with. I like the groups I'm with. And I like what I'm doing. You know, I'm just going to stick it out and see how it works. I can always go visit Pastor Glenn at his new church. It's not that much farther away. And, you know, hey. So anyway, there's that. So, yeah, I'm involved in the prayer shawl ministry for there, but I haven't really been into prayer shawls. And I'm also doing this stuff for my very own blanket, which is a group here in Columbus that was started by a lady who realized that foster kids here in the system in Columbus, in the foster system, don't typically travel with something of their own when they get placed in foster care. So she's like, well, we can give them blankets and pillows and stuff like that. So they actually have something concrete of their own they can take with them when they go. And it's theirs. It's something they pick out. It's theirs. So they'll have it with them when they're in foster care as kind of a comfort. And, blankets you can wrap around and keep warm. So I had heard about this organization through the J.P. Morgan Chase CareWorks or ChaseWorks, where they do events throughout the month for different charity organizations. And my very own blanket, I'll put the link below to my very own blanket. They came to a couple of Chase locations, not mine, unfortunately, last year, but they came to a couple of Chase locations, and everybody got together for an hour, and they made fleece blankets, where you cut the strips a few inches up on, two sides of the blanket, and you tie the ends, and it makes kind of a nice little finished fleece blanket. So the kids could come in and pick a blanket, and, the blanket's theirs. Well, when I got the information 2 years ago, actually it was last April, they had an open house event nearby one night, and I plopped in after work because I wanted to find out more information about the group. And they actually sat me down, they had, it was like a dinner, and they had dessert. They had plenty of dessert left over, so they offered me pie. And I sat there, listened to their spiel. I met the lady behind the group, and I got to talk to her, and I told her how I found out about the group. So a couple weeks later, they were having a kind of a yard sale open house at their location, because they actually have a physical location up in Westerville here in Columbus. And I went up there for their open house, had something to drink, walked around, looked at all the blankets. I decided at the dinner that I was going to go ahead and donate $10 a month. That $10 a month gives somebody in a nursing home the ability to make a blanket. So I'm basically giving somebody in a nursing home the ability to help these kids out by donating $10 a month. It provides a blanket to foster kids. And then I'm like, well, heck, I crochet. I can crochet an edging on a fleece blanket. So yeah, I started doing that. I have I have one made, I have one almost finished. I just haven't had a chance to drop them off yet. But that is one of the organizations that I'd like to work with, and I'd like to kind of expand the horizons for the prayer shawl ministry, or to start a new group. The Bell Choir director Michelle and I are looking at starting another community outreach group where we do crafting as community outreach, and we do blankets for my very own blanket. We'll do demise blankets for the NICUs in the area. Michelle's a chaplain, and she does a lot of work in the hospitals and stuff like that. So she has connections. So we could do baby hats and NICU blankets, fetal demise pockets, and stuff like that. So we have a lot of outreach opportunities that we'd like to get started. We just haven't had the time. This year's kind of run away with us. But anyway, so I also do that. But so I will get back into showing you some of my new things. Now, some of this I may have already shown you, and I'm not really sure. But one of my recent purchases came from, actually I'll show this first because I think this was the first one. One of the Facebook groups I'm involved with, I think it's Bewitched Stitches. There was this post not very long ago. I forget who posted it, but there's this gentleman by the name of Brian Jackins, Jackins, who was a designer, and he had done some designing for Dimensions before, and he's now trying to branch out on his own, and they're trying to get word out about his new patterns that he's doing on his own. And this first pattern, or this pattern that I got, is one of his first new releases on his own that was posted to one of the Facebook groups, so I went out and bought it. It's actually pretty cool. I don't have too many Halloween things, but this is by Love for Cross Stitch. It's LUV, the number 4, Cross Stitch by Brian Jackins, and it's called Boo Butterfly. I thought this was absolutely spectacular. I don't know if you can tell. I don't know if I can even get it close enough. But the border around this is a little cemetery scene. And you have the 2 cats in the middle with the sword. You have the pumpkins and the candy apples and the jack-o'-lantern face and the crows and the spider webs. Just really cool. So, if you get a chance, look up Boo Butterfly by Brian Jackins and see if you can get a copy of it. It's pretty cool. I haven't decided when I'm going to stitch this yet, but it's probably going to be on, I'm probably going to be getting some slate or some sort of darker fabric to stitch this on, because I think it would pop on the darker fabric. I don't think I'll stitch it on black. I'm not a huge fan of black, but so there's that. The Boo Butterfly by Brian Jackins. And then these next 2 that I got are from the Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery. Quite a few people have stitched this already. And I believe this was a stitch along that they did. And it's called the Pumpkin Passport. You guys have probably seen this. There was a stitch along, but I didn't participate. But I really like the pattern. This is Let's Go on an Adventure. Stick it over here. Let's go on an adventure. So I have this for my stash now. Really excited about that. And then the next one by the Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery that I got the same day was they have an Around the World series. And being that I like Japanese things, I got Around the World Japan. This one was really cute. It says Konnichiwa. Konnichiwa. And I like the Nico, the cat. Nico is Japanese for cat. I like the little sushi. And the flag. And I think these are mochi. These are supposed to be mochi. But it says Konnichiwa. And this is Around the World Japan from the Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery. So recently, Heaven and Earth Designs, you know, they occasionally have sales on their website. And they had a needle binder sale. And I haven't been purchasing very many needle binders. Just because, you know, I've been kind of making my own recently. But I went ahead on the needle minder sale, and I ordered a couple needle minders. One of the authors that I really like is Diana Gabaldon. She writes the Outlander series. Many of you have probably been reading them and watching the series on Stars. But I've been a pretty big fan of the Outlander series since probably the early 90s. When I was working downtown at Nationwide Insurance, I was sitting outside in the courtyard area stitching on my lunch break, and this lady walked up and she saw me stitching. So she's like, well, I see you out here stitching. She goes, I have a little bit of time, like an hour and a half every day. Can I come out here and stitch with you? And I'm like, sure. She worked across the street for the city government. I think it was a government job. She had a government job in an auditor's office. And all she was doing in the auditor's office was answering phone calls and opening mail and, you know, scheduling audits. She'd, you know, schedule the plane flights and all that stuff for the auditors in the office. So she was only basically in the office to answer phones and do all that. And once her duties, her office duties were done for the day, as long as she was there until 5 o'clock to answer phones, they didn't care what she did. So she took her stitching with her a lot. But she was really big into Outlander by Diana Gabaldon. And I think back in the 90s, there was only like 3 or 4 books in this series. There wasn't very many out yet. She's up to 9. And they're thick books, too. They're like 1,000-page books. So she was telling me about it because my last name is Fraser. And so she was telling me, she's like, oh, you have to read this book. It's a really good book. So she let me her copy And they were closing her office for 6 to 8 weeks due to some funding issue, the governmental funding issue. So I actually gave her book back. Then I went out and found me a used copy at Half Price Books, and I started reading it, and I was hooked ever since. So the Needleminder sale at Heaven and Earth Designs, they have quite a few Outlander patterns. I don't own one yet, but that's going to change. But they did have a couple Needleminders, so I found an Outlander Needleminder that I really, really like. And this is Jamie and Claire. Now, as far as like the history of the books and the Fraser family, the Fraser clan, yes, quite a few of the historical Frasers mentioned in the book are probably some of my husband's family's ancestors. I think my husband's side of the family definitely has ties to Lord Lovett, but I don't know exactly what the ties are and how far back, where exactly they go for the Fraser clan in Scotland, but there is some tie. My sister-in-law knows a little bit more, but there is some tie to our family, to my husband's family back then. So I think that's another reason why these books kind of go with me. I haven't actually dug around to find out what the significance is and what the tie is, but yeah. So I have like my first Outlander Needleminder. Excited about that. And I also am a really big fan of Jasmine Beckett Griffith. I had a chance to meet her 2 years ago when I was out in California working remotely, helping my mom out when my dad was in the hospital. Jasmine Beckett Griffith was at the Wonderground Gallery, downtown Disney, doing an exhibit. And I went there while she was there. And I got to meet her, signed some autographs, got some pictures. Showed her my Faces of Fairy cross-stitch project that I had of hers. And she was like ecstatic. She knew right away that it came from Heaven and Earth Designs, because Heaven and Earth Designs at the time, and I think they still are only the one that are licensed to publish cross-stitch patterns for her works. I don't have Faces of Fairy nearby, but I have a couple in my WIP rotation that I'm working on of hers. I have quite a few pieces of hers, and actually I can post some of the pictures from the gallery visitation here for you, probably at the end of this video. But anyway, so there was 2 Jasmine Beckett Griffiths Needleminders that I have. This is Faces of Fairy. I don't know the number on this one, but this is one of my WIPs currently. I currently have her in progress, and I'm not quite, in the pattern, I'm not quite to this eye yet. So I've gotten like this corner up here. I'm working on the corner, but I haven't gotten to this eye yet. So this is a Faces of Fairy. And this one, I do have the pattern for, the Heaven and Earth Design pattern for, but I haven't started yet. This is also a Faces of Fairy by Jasmine Beckett Griffith. I'm excited about these. I really love her work. My husband and I both like Japanese anime, and Japanese anime are known for big eyes, small mouth. These are very much big eyes, small mouth. So we really like those a lot. So 2 new Needleminders, I'm really excited, and my Outlander Needleminder. So that's pretty much most of the new stuff I think I have to show you guys that I'm pretty sure I didn't already show you. There's no new Needleminders that I can see. No other new patterns that I have. I do have a couple of patterns on order, and ones that I'm going to be ordering. I'm trying to figure out if I want to get Chatelain's The Frosty Knot Garden ordered. That's going to cost a lot because their patterns are expensive. But I have a couple other things that I've ordered first. My cross-stitch store called me today, actually, and told me that my Dinky Dye floss is in, so I'm going to have to stop by there probably tomorrow before we go to the convention center and pick that up, so I get that. Also, I placed an order with my cross stitch store for Silver Creek Samplers Sing a Sampler 1 through 4. That's the Do Re Mi samplers that they've put out, that you can do them all as a set. I'm going to do them all in one big piece. It's the song from the Sound of Music. You know, when you know the notes to sing, you can sing most anything. Sound of Music is probably my absolute, hands down, most favorite musical. When I was little, my grandma's the one that taught me all my crafting abilities. Had it not been for her, I probably wouldn't be so into crafts as I am. She died when I was a sophomore in high school back in 1986. She'd had breast cancer, had both her breasts removed, and she didn't catch the cancer in time. So the cancer, over the course of about 6 or 7 years, spread throughout her body and ended up taking her life when I was about a sophomore in high school. And I was the first one in the family that knew she had a lump. I was about 12, and we were getting ready for dinner. We were going out to dinner with my grandfather, and he worked just up the street. He worked less than half a mile up the street for the highway department, and we were in her bedroom, and she'd just come out of the bathroom, and she was getting ready to put on her bra, and she had her slip on and her pantyhose and stuff. And she's walking over to me, and I'm looking at her, I cocked my head kind of odd, and I said, "Grandma, your boob looks funny." And she kind of looked down, and she looked up at me, and she goes, "All right, honey, come here for a minute." She sat me on the edge of the bed. She goes, "Now, don't tell your grandpa, but I want to show you this." And she had me feel where I could see the lump on her breast. And about the time, it was the size bigger than a quarter. I don't think it was quite the size of a golf ball, but it was bigger than a quarter. And she's like, "No, you feel that?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she's like, "It's nothing. It's okay. Just don't tell your grandpa. You know, I want him to find it. And everything's okay. I'm okay. But, you know, just kind of keep this hush-hush. This will be our little secret." So, you know, I was 12. What did I know? Back in, like, you know, the very early 80s, 1980, 81, 82, you know, they didn't talk about cancer, let alone breast cancer, all that much back then. And so I didn't say anything. You know, that was over the summer when I was about 12. Well, my grandfather, about 9 months later, found it. They were being intimate, and he was like, "What the heck is that?" Of course, by then, you know, that much longer later, it was much bigger. And so he had her go get it checked out, and, you know, it ended up being breast cancer, and that's what started her, you know, downhill turn. But it took her probably 8 years to, well, maybe not that much. About 5. It took her about, 5 to 6 years to pass on. But if it hadn't been for her, I probably wouldn't have all my crafty stuff. And I kind of forgot where I was going to go with that. But anyway, so that's all I got for you tonight. Oh, I can show you some progress. So, for the cross-stitch sleepover, yeah, I'll do that. The piece that I worked on for the cross-stitch sleepover last Friday night was the Amid Amish length. That three-piece thing, or three-piece pattern that was in the Cross Stitch and Country Crafts magazine from 1987. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this really well. No, excuse me. So, this is my progress on it so far. So, I'll put it on this side. You can see it a little better on this side. So, before Friday night, I didn't have this big tree done. I still hadn't really finished this, and I definitely hadn't gotten started on the clouds. This gray here is the clouds. Is the clouds in the back. Then right above the clouds, there's a little space, and then the border goes across the top. So yeah, I actually did this tree. I did this little background mountain area, and some of this mountainous area back here. And then I started, Saturday, actually got started on the clouds. And I did all that when I was at my in-laws' house. So, this section here, this diagonal section here, This is the roof line for the main part of the house that actually stretches into the second part. So, once I get done with the clouds here, I'm probably going to actually do the roof, but do the roof all the way across onto the second pattern section. Because I'm stitching all three on one. I'm squishing them together and making them all one. But you can see this is the roof line of the house, the main part of the house. And then this is the little roof line of the additional section. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to finish the clouds and then continue down here until I get to the first quilt that's hanging on the clothesline. I might actually do the quilt down here first before I actually start the roof of the house. Haven't decided yet. But, yeah, so that's where I got this last weekend. There's actually quite a bit of progress. The funny thing about this is I was stitching the tree, and I was like, oh, what a happy tree. I started channeling Bob Ross. It's like, oh, the happy tree. And then, of course, when I got to the clouds, I was like, oh, it's the happy clouds. This little happy cloud over the happy tree. Yes, I'm a little goofy. I'm sorry for that. No, I'm not. No, not really. But yeah, so this is my happy tree and my happy clouds. So yes, channeling Bob Ross with this one a little bit. Kind of made my husband laugh when I told him that. Because he came into the dining room of the in-laws, and I was like, happy tree and happy clouds. And he's just looking at me. He's like, you're not watching Bob Ross on YouTube, are you? I said, no. He's like, okay. But, so that's where I got. I'm actually enjoying stitching on this quite a lot. Pam from Pam and Steph Just Keep Stitching, she said that this is one of the pieces that she has in her pile to start. So hopefully this will give her motivation to go. I'm really enjoying this. For those of you that don't know, I'm doing this on 32 count Mercedes Lugana by Picture This Plus. Mercedes is a colorway, and it kind of looks like clouds. It's blue mottled. You can probably see it there. It's blue mottled. Looks like clouds. That's why I kind of chose this piece, because most of the part down here is going to be covered up by stitching, and then of course it's going to leave the sky above. So I kind of just like that additional sky look up there. But I made Amish Life, and that's where I've got. This is really the only piece I've been working on for the last couple of weeks. Haven't really been wanting to work on anything else, really. So, and it's just my little gypsy wagon needle minder. Haven't really changed that out. But that's where I've got. Alright. I think that's it for tonight, you guys. That was almost an hour. I hope you enjoy this video. I'm going to turn the light off now. Sorry about that. Leave me a comment. Like my video, subscribe to my video if you haven't already. Let me know if you have any questions. I will try and answer them best I can on my upcoming videos. I really appreciate everybody watching me, and I appreciate all the shoutouts. So yeah, so let me, while I'm thinking about it, so I need to links, Coffee Stitcher, Marilyn's Boy. I need to add pics. I said I was going to do pics of Wonderground with Jasmine Beckett Griffith. Alright. Alright, you guys. Well, thanks for paddling through with me while I'm congested. And anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. Get back to stitching. I don't know if I'm going to be stitching tonight or not, or crocheting. I haven't decided yet. I'm off tomorrow, so I get to sleep in a little bit, which is good. My husband's off tomorrow. He has to go into work on Thursday, though, and then I'm going to take him to work, and I'm heading down to the convention center, because I'm going to be at the convention center all day. But yeah, it'll be fun. Hey, if you're ever in Columbus, oh, there is something I kind of wanted to talk to you about. Actually, let me go ahead and flop over here for a minute. Bear with me. put this out of the way so I can type. I don't want that to fall. Don't fall, don't fall. Okay. Okay, so 2 things. First off, Cross My Heart, my local needle workshop, they have a Flosstube video. They have a Flosstube channel. Due to some technical issues with their original Flosstube channel that they had from a few years ago, before Flosstube became what it has now become, they were unable to basically get back into their old Flosstube channel. So they have a new one. So I'm going to go ahead and link you to the new Cross My Heart Limited Flosstube channel below. And also state that there is an event going on right now called Collective. There's an event called Collective Stitch. A company by the name of Tempting Tangles has created some charts that they've passed out to several shops that are participating. There's about 20 shops that are participating in this Collective Stitch event. Through the month of June, July, and August. Cross My Heart has a special pattern, and they can kit it up for you. They have it kitted up in both linen and Aida for you. So if you do the Collective Stitch event, I will try and find the link for you here and put it down below. But if you are looking for, if you are in the area and you're traveling around, you can visit these 20 or so different needle workshops and pick up these free patterns. The patterns are free, but I know Cross My Heart is doing the, Cross My Heart is kitting them up. So you can stop in to Cross My Heart if you happen to be in the Columbus area and pick up the free pattern, and it's really cool. The free pattern is actually really nice. This is from Tempting Tangles. It's called Collective Stitch. The Cross My Heart one has 2 reindeer on the other side, on either side of like a decorative kind of motif tree with 2018 at the top. It's actually really kind of cool, and they have I believe it's with overdyed or hand dyed threads. So yeah, you can stop by Cross My Heart and pick up your free graph now through August. They have Aida and linen kits available for purchase. They will be available for purchase starting this Friday. This is what they post on their website. So I can actually post. I will actually post a picture. Well, I might not be able to do that, but I will at least send you to their Facebook page. I will link their Facebook page here so you can actually take a look at their Facebook page and see what their pattern is. I'm not sure what the other patterns for the other areas might be, but I will put the link in my description. So anyway, that's about it. This video is a little over an hour long, you guys. I managed to talk for an hour being congested, and I haven't coughed into fits, so that's a good thing. My throat is still there. I still have a voice, more or less. But anyway, I will see you guys pretty soon here. Probably not this weekend, but probably in another week or so. It might be more like 2 weeks. I don't know. But anyway, buy all the things, stitch all the things, play all the games, you guys, because I'm going to do that this weekend. Ooh, boy, am I going to do that. Play all the games, buy all the stitching supplies, buy all the floss, touch all the things, you guys. Just have fun. And you know what? Most of all, keep on keeping on. We'll see you next time. Take care. Bye.